this demo, and I have open in front of me my Visual Studio Code IDE. The purpose of this demo is to just show you how to use security IDE plugins. This way we'll be shifting left, we'll be fixing security issues at the very beginning instead of waiting for it to be later in the development process. Okay, so this travel booking app is a project that I contributed to a couple of years ago, and it's basically an app that helps you book your travel. So your flights, your local transport, your hotels. So think Expedia. So it's written entirely in JavaScript, and we've got, just for the purpose of this demo, I have included a Terraform file just to showcase how we can do security scanning with an IDE plugin on infrastructure as code. Okay, so I'm using two security plugins today. I'm using SonarQube, which you can spot at the bottom, and I am using Sneak. So Sneak is a product that I'm very familiar with. Sneak is short for Sonar, you know, and it's a pretty good tool. So I'm using the free version of both tools. So they are tools, they are actual tools. So Sneak does a couple of scanning. It does SAST, it does open source security scanning, so SCA, it does infrastructure as code scanning, and it also does containerized scanning. But for the purpose of this demo, we'll only be focusing on the SAST IEC scanning and SCA scanning. So I'm using SonarQube. Unfortunately, because I don't have access to the paid license for SonarQube, I'm just using the free community version, and that doesn't offer a lot of security features. So we are limited by this, you know, the level of granularity, security granularity or insight that SonarQube, the SonarQube free version IDE plugin can provide. That was a mouthful. Okay, so I've got this app at the moment is not hosted anywhere. I've got it saved within my my folder, and I've just pulled it up as a project. And as you can see all the files and the different sort of modules. I don't want to say modules, but basically the different files and different folders within the project. So there's a way to set this up. You have to install the plugins on your IDE. So I've done that. So you can come on here and search for them. As you can see, I've got Sonar, and then you can install them. But in order to use them, you have to have free accounts. So you have to go on and create accounts with either Sneak or SonarQube, and you have to authenticate from there on through to here in order for you to use these plugins. Okay. So I have opened in front of me. So you can do a couple of things, right? You can either scan. So SonarQube has a focus mode. You can either scan your overall code, or you can scan for just new code, right? So if I click on there, oh dear, you should be able to scan for new code, or you should be able to scan, you know, new code. I think it defines new code as being from the last 30 days. It will only highlight code from the last 30 days. And SonarQube focuses, you can also do a focus mode on overall code. Why is that useful? So for example, you are aware of existing issues, you're a dev, you know, you've pulled up the main branch and you just want to add a few lines of code, or you want to make some logic changes to, you know, your local branch. You don't want all that noise. You just kind of want to focus on your contribution, and this is where that would be useful. Sneak also gives you that ability to focus on new code. So you would find that within the setting. So there is a way for you to install the plugin and use the plugin, like I said, and there are a few other other configurations that you could add, but I'm going to leave that to you to deal with, because that's not the focus of, maybe you can read up on it, I can send you some documentation, but that's not the focus of this demo. So this configuration setting is via user. It tends to be useful for bigger projects. So if, for example, you have different teams, this is what will be useful. This is where you would sort of control that particular kind of setting, configuration setting. So for myself, because I'm just working off my machine, and for example your local branch, you don't want to do anything too extreme. It's just you're just working off it. I've not created any organization, so they're basically projects, different types of projects. It just helps you to group your workload in the way that works best for you. So if you've noticed, I've opted in to use a couple of the sneak features. I'm using the open source security feature, so it's going to scan my dependency issues. I've also opted in for code security as well. Sorry, I don't know what's wrong with my mouse. It's a bit clicky. And I've also opted for code security and IAC security, which is literally infrastructure as code. So I've asked for Snyk to display all the severity levels, but if you're an organization that's just focused on critical highs and mediums, you can focus on that. You can also use sort of, this is akin to SonarQube's focus mode. So you can focus on all issues or net new issues. So it just shows you, so it shows only the new issues, filtering out previously known issues in a base branch. So that'll be useful. You can just either you can choose to run this automatically, the scanning mode, or you can just do this manually, right? Only when you run Snyk rescan command. So this can be done as you change your code. It will just automatically scan the new, any adds or removals you've done, or you can just like click the button and it will do that. So you have the options to look at open issues or issues that have been ignored. There are also some other configuration settings that you can make within the Snyk settings.json. So basically what folders you want it to target scanning at. And there are a few other things that you can do, but like I said, the focus is not on here. So I'm just going to move from here. And so this is the fly.js folder. What it does is it would use the Rapid API. As you can see, we've got the Rapid API key, a Rapid API host on there, and it would search for quotes, when a user has put in a potential outbound date, inbound date. It would validate the user's the location for where they're wanting to go, and it will return and check that the date and the validation are all sort of valid, and it will throw out any errors as well, right? So that's kind of what this is doing at a glance. So we can see on here, I'm sure you've noticed this already. If there's a squiggle, so you'll notice this little light bulbs sort of everywhere. Oh, before I go into it, I just need to give a disclaimer. So because we're using the free version of Snyk, typically what tends to happen on a paid license is all the issues it finds are displayed according to the category for which they belong. So for example, if you find 93 issues within your code, the open source security issues will be displayed on here under this category. The code security issues, basically the SAST issues, will be displayed under this category, and the configuration issues, so like your Docker container or your IAC, whatever, all of those will be displayed within here, right? Okay, so we talked about new code and new findings and non-new findings. So Snyk has made a discovery of 93 issues and 17 new issues, right? So total of 93, 17 new. This application has not been updated in a very, very long time. We're talking years. So it's literally the perfect vulnerable application, right? It's the perfect vulnerable application. We've got issues everywhere. So it's perfect for this demo. which is why I've chosen it. So Sneak will show you where it finds problems. So of those 93, it's shown us. So we have 93 problems being reported in total by Sneak. And don't forget, we've got SonarCube on here still doing some scans. So it's this problems space is going to combine all of the issues that have been found by both Sneak and SonarCube. So if you see what I mean, it's found SonarCube issues. So unfortunately, with the free license, SonarCube is more of a code linter. So basically a code quality checker as opposed to a security tool at this level. Okay, so we are within flight.js. So it's just saying an unexpected negated condition. So that's not really a security issue. It's talking about an unnecessary escape character. Again, that's not a security issue. But we have sneak code. Remember, sneak code does code scanning, so basically SAST. So let's just have a look. It's talking about the information exposure, that there's some information exposure vulnerability. So I'm a dev and I'm working and I don't understand all of this and I don't really have the time, but it's within my workspace and I really want to see what the problem is. We're just going to click on here. It's shown us where it is. It said it's line 72. Remember, I'm not a security expert. I'm just a dev. So we can see it gives us some information. So it's got 3 tabs. So if we click on here, it kind of tells us what the issue is. It talks about information exposure. It does a bit of education. So it's telling you what line it's at. So Sneak does findings based on something called a priority score. So it takes into cognizance loads of factors and then arrives at a priority score. So basically how important this is. So I think the priority score is up to 1,000. Don't quote me, but as the higher the priority score is, the more the higher the severity of the issue is. It uses a lot of data and it maintains its own database, but it uses industry approved data sources, security data sources to compile all the information it needs to arrive at a priority score. So it's just telling us about, sensitive data, what that means, what that includes. So you're a dev and you're looking at your code and this has been flagged up as a medium. It shows you the common weakness enumerator. It just shows you the 2 common weakness enumerators that are associated with this particular issue. So it showed you that. It's going to show you the data flow, how that works. There's not much of a data flow here. It's just saying rest or send, and it's sending an error message wherever it finds an error, right? So you can see there's some kind of catch block that's dealing with any errors that are found, right? Whilst the API is being called, either any errors, if it goes through, send 200, if it doesn't, catch the error and send the error, right? So Sneak doesn't like that because it's saying, it's somehow going to be showing a sensitive information that it's probably not supposed to show. And if you know anything about verbose error messages, that is an issue as a developer. No, not just as a developer. That's an issue for an application. An application should not be disclosing certain errors that could be found within either the network tab, anything that would basically provide stack trace information about an error, which would be easy for an attacker to basically use to exploit your application. So you want to be careful with that, right? And it's just giving us, so one beautiful thing about the free Sneak IDE plugin, it gives you community fixes. So it maintains a community of where people are able to provide fixes for vulnerabilities. So all of this is free, basically free fix remediation advice. The reality of it is, when you're using the paid version, it uses AI fixes. So you're able to immediately apply AI fixes, which I have used in the past, and I would say they're not too bad. Okay, so it shows us, it's giving us about 3 different examples, and I quite like this one, so I'm going to use it, right? Instead of sending the error, it could be sending you a 400 error, a 500 error, and it might be displaying, depending on what you've written down, within your code, it might be displaying what the actual problem is. And that's not something that should be sent to on the front end, that should be visible on the front end. It should be sent to like a log, a debugging log for yourself, something that's not publicly exposed, right? So we can change this. It's giving us an example of how we can fix this. So remember, I'm a dev, not a security person. I'm just going to try this. So I'm going to change the error. Voila, right? It stopped bugging, it stopped complaining about it. And we're just going to see if that's fixed it, right? So Sneak is analyzing that, is analyzing the changes that we've made to that file. And let's see, do you see that it's no longer there? So we fixed that vulnerability. Although it's a medium, we fixed it, right? It's all done, it's all gone. We're never going to see it again. And this is reflected because initially we had 93 issues within this particular branch, but now because of that fix, it's reduced it. So this is so easy because I don't have to spend hours trying to debug it. I've got some advice, I've got a bit of education on what the issue is, and even if the fix is not within, you know, the Sneak recommendation, I can do some more research on it. But it just helps to have that to hand. So we fix it, right? So we'll move on. So we have a few other issues. So for example, we've got information exposure, cross-site scripting forgery. It talks about how CSRF protection is disabled for this Express app. Remember, it's a JavaScript app, so yeah, powered by Express. And we have this particular vulnerability, and I'm just going to go investigate it. So Sneak tells me it's on line 53. So this one, I've come a little bit more prepared for this. What does this particular file do? So this file is basically the heart of this whole application. So it helps to configure express.js server, and it connects it to MongoDB, right? So if we go up top, you'll see what I mean. It helps it to connect to MongoDB, and it helps to register all our API routes. So you can see the different routes in use. We've got users, flights, cities, email, checkout, itinerary. So we've got a few of these routes, right? And like I said, this is the heart of the application. It handles the back end. So it orchestrates how requests are handled and routed. So it's a pretty important file. So what is it complaining about? It's talking about allocation of resources without limits or throttling. And let's see where the problem area is. So it's picking up an issue. You can see where the squiggle is. Again, this is a medium vulnerability. So like before, it shows us a priority score. It shows us the CWE. It gives us quite a lot of detail. So if we really wanted to dig deep, we will be able to figure out what's going on here. But it's basically complaining about this wildcard use, right? It doesn't like what we've done. It's complaining about this. So we are basically able to send out, requests are able to be sent out without any what's it called? Any limitation. So requests are able to be sent out without any form of control. Basically, somebody could spam the app with loads and loads of requests to the front end, and that could potentially bring down the server, right? It'll make it unavailable to genuine users. And as I said, without limits, somebody could keep, sending requests and to the front end resources, and we have no control over that. So we are literally looking at a denial of service, a potential denial of service attack here. So what can we do? I've taken the liberty of just going forward to add a rate limiter. There are various ways you can add a rate limiter, but for the sake of this demo and just to show you, I've taken the liberty of adding a rate limiter. Okay. So I've been cheeky. I've just put that in there just so that it's easy and it's simple. And the whole point is to make sure that our routes, all the routes that we're using, we're using the Express servers to create, those routes are not being overwhelmed. So people, they won't keep continuously hitting those routes. I mean, in the real world, outside of writing this logic, what you should be able to do as well is you should be able to be using an API gateway. So you should be using an API gateway to control this kind of issue potentially. That's what you should be doing anyway. So I've created a rate limiter. I've put false for legacy headers, true for standard headers, request headers. I've put max, the number of requests we should get. And so we've got that on there. So I'm going to put, if you remember, if you look lower, you can see that issue is there, but I haven't saved this yet. So that's why that's still there. If we save it, so Sneak is going to do some scanning, right? And Sneak is done. So pretty quickly, it's just because, and guess what? It's fixed an issue. So if you look on here, we had 92 issues after first fixing the first vulnerability, but now we have 92. So if I do like a Control Z, I just want to show you something, because remember, if you have to we have to behave like, I'm the dev and I'm using this, it will still give you that information that you need, like, where am I going wrong, why is this wrong, what's happening, why is there a squiggle. So if we come back here like we did before, so you can either go and do some more research by clicking, this and going to, like, you're going to be redirected to Sneak, where it's going to show you what the issue is. It just gives you like a proper dig deep or deep dive. So if I click on here, so just show. You can either go here or you can go here. So if I just say show the Sneak suggestion, it kind of gives me an idea of how to fix this. And that's the same fix that I've sort of applied on here, but I've just added a few more bits to it. So that's what I've done here. And yeah, it worked. So we've got 3 examples and I've chosen one, and that's what I've applied, right? And it's worked. Okay, so I'm going to go back and just take out the commented bits and save. And voila, everything should be fine. Yep, it's fine now. So I appreciate the loads to look at. So we've got some, it's complaining on the users.js bit about use of hard-coded passwords. I'm just going to check it out just because I'm kind of curious myself. So it's taking us into that file. So what line? The line is 103. So it's complaining about password, but this is an example of a false finding, a false positive, because it's seen the word password and immediately it's said, oh, that's a password, but it's not a password, right? So that's an example of a finding that is not entirely correct. So bear with me. There's no quick fix for this, but at least we know, right? For some reason, I'm not able to just mark this as a false positive with the non-free license. So I'm not able to do that, unfortunately. So I'll just crack on. So the IAC bit, we're going to go look at some Terraform findings. And I think this is interesting because I think the DevOps team tend to be the ones who configure infrastructure as code resources. So this particular Terraform file has AWS Cloud as the resource of choice, and it's using buckets, it's using some what they call it, some my brain's gone. So it's using IAM resources, it's using database resource as well, and it's using an EC2 security group. Okay, so we're just very quickly going to have a look at what Sneak has brought up on here. So it talks about the AWS resource being publicly available. So I just want to have a look and see what the issue is. So that's on line 1, right? It talks, so we can vaguely see that everything's on port 8080 and it's literally 000, right? You can see that. So it's using port 22 and it's the same at the bottom. So that is an issue. You don't have to be a networking expert to understand that that's open for anybody to, that port is basically open and it's browsable from anywhere. Okay. So there's some S3 findings as well. So it talks about that the S3 bucket is publicly readable without any authentication or authorization. The problem with that is on a normal day, this should be hidden behind some a CDN, for example. I would have hidden this behind the CDN. I wouldn't be, just allowing that S3 bucket endpoint to be, publicly requested for. I wouldn't do that. So, but this, for some reason, what you can do is you can send loads of requests to that API endpoint for the S3 bucket, and you can overwhelm it with loads and loads of requests. So both genuine and malicious requests will be made to that bucket, and again, that is an issue because it could lead to potential DOS vulnerability. So they're saying that the bucket is publicly readable, so we can change that, right? We can change that to make it private instead of making it publicly readable. There are times when we want to make it publicly readable, but we're going to make this private, and it uses a weak algorithm, so you can change that. And it also talks about using versioning is not enabled as well, but I don't want to go too much into it. For the sake of time, I'm just going to press save and see if Sneak will pick it up. So Sneak is doing a scan, and yeah, we're almost there. And let's see. So so it's not picked up. That's not that's the security group one. But it's not picked up that the bucket is publicly accessible anymore. So you can see that that finding is no longer there. But if we wanted, what we could have done is if we had done this, so it gives you an opportunity to open all of these findings in a browser where it will show you what the actual issue is and how you can fix it. But do you see what I mean? It would just redirect you, but I don't want to come out of the IDE. I'm just going to be here, and yeah, so that's it. I think the whole point of this is you don't have to write. It's using Sneak, SonarQube, the paid version. These are tools that have been created to use, well-researched vulnerability databases to create templates for scanning. So you don't have to do anything. This is quite simple from a developer point of view. It's very developer focused. It makes things easier for the developer. It makes things easier for the DevOps engineer. They don't. It's putting them in a security mindset where they're able to get things done without worrying too much or without doing too much heavy handling. So by the time my code is secure within my dev environment and I push it to the main branch, and they're doing some scanning, or we have some gates at PRO level, we've created a process of elimination. We've done quite a lot of work without doing quite a lot of work by just using this security IDE plugins. So yeah, I'm gonna stop here